All right, guys, welcome back to another podcast with Battlecore, man. This is Isaac, lead on the creative team.
I am Mustang Berserker.
I'm Detective, also known as Anthony Blaze on the Discord channels.
All right, guys. So today, what we're gonna really talk about is more of a kind of meta review and probably a meta prediction. So on the last podcast, we kind of touched on that briefly, and to kind of see like, okay, what are we gonna think is really gonna come into what Vegas, for example, and what's gonna really set the grounds for the meta coming forward as we enter Battle Spirit Saga. We previously discussed that right now, that Purple is doing an amazing job. The Purple train's going. It's going, man. It's going. And Red is kind of right behind it when it comes to with Sigworm Nova. Right now, the colors that are not seeing too much shine right now is kind of yellow and white. Let's talk about that, guys. So, yellow. Thoughts?
Yellow is an excellent color. It's a great shock factor color because if they build up enough hand with enough magic and then get out of luster, your board is gone. Because they'll swing and they'll go flash, and you'll go no flash.
That just seems so sad.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Because once they start saying flash, you know it's not going to end well.
Nope.
Flash?
Nope.
Well.
And then you just be like, and luster, like 5 cards back into your hand. And let's do it again.
That was hilarious. Flash, no flash.
That was actually
Unfortunately for
fun.
white, that is yellow is actually a good strong deck against white because they don't really have any yellow armor.
Yeah, that's true. And I think white, they don't fight with spells necessarily. They fight with them creatures. So with yellow going, I mean theoretically, with yellow going into white, it's like okay, their creatures are weak, but they use their spells to kind of get over that. While white's like, all right, I'm big. I defend.
I'm big.
What white's effectiveness is when they get to the block step,
Yeah,
but yellow doesn't let them get to the block
that's very
step.
true. That's very true. That's very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. I, so just to say from the last podcast, I remember I said, I believe that Vegas is going to have a shock factor.
Yeah.
And, based on the time of release of this podcast, we're probably going to release it the day before or the morning of, Vegas, players can have,
Yeah.
insight before, they arrive at the venue. I still hold true to that some of these players that are going to be showing up are going to be hardcore veterans or they're very, very good deck builders. And when you look at very good deck builders, I'm not saying that net deckers or players that follow, the streamline of where the deck's, forcing you to go are bad. But I'm saying, the good, amazing deck builders have a free, open mind. They don't feel restricted when they build anything. So they may come out there with an amazing build of white. They may come out there with the otter build. Shoot, we may see this amazing pterosaur build, and everyone's gonna be like, "Wait a minute! I thought pterosaurs wasn't all this hot fire. Where'd this come from?" So I believe that that there's going to be a shock factor in the top 32. It's not going to be just straight Novas and straight core removal. I believe, these people who got into top 32 are going to have some of these very unique deck builds.
So how do you feel about white in that light? How do you feel about yellow in that regard?
How I feel.
Like, what do you think they're going to place in the spectrum?
I don't want to say that yellow is terror bad. As much as I like the magic slinging portion of yellow, I feel like the beast part is really going to be the one that really sets a precedent.
Godspeed?
I really feel like Godspeed's going to be the one that sets a
I love
precedent.
his name, Godspeed. Babe.
Is
Fable Beast.
Sable Beast. I really feel like that's going to more set a precedence when it comes to yellow being topped in the top 32.
And do you think more so it's because of more aggressive nature?
It's the aggressive nature, but it's also that thing can burst out in any freaking moment. Because the one thing that red and purple, you guys do, I'm saying you guys because you guys play the respective colors,
Yeah.
you guys do really well. It's you guys force tempo. And remember, by force tempo, it's at a certain point, you guys accelerate the game. As red, you guys excel in that early mid game type play style. You guys confront. You guys have that low DP destruction because people don't have a lot of cores yet to bump up their creatures. So you guys are just popping those things off the board. And not only that, most of your creatures are relatively easy to get out there. And then when you look at purple, you guys are very good manipulators of that mid to end game because the longer the game goes, the more cores you guys have, meaning the more combinations of core removal cards you're putting on the board. With all that being said, the more stuff you guys put in the Fable Beast's drop zone, the easier it is for them to get out this big kahua.
Yeah, guys can come pretty fast. So if you accelerate the tempo, that works in their favor as well, because especially if they have Cathedral. If Cathedral is at max level and they have all these little, let me not say that word, going through, they will accelerate Godspeed, and then Godspeed will come up faster. And while you're destroying their stuff and they're defending, they're getting more core and they're drawing more cards with Cathedral at max level. So now you're going to see Godspeed at a faster point, and you're digging through your deck to get Godspeed. I think that's such a really potent combo for yellow, which I'm surprised I haven't seen a lot of. So
that's because red has been kind of hurting them with Andromeda and Burning Force. They've just been. They don't care about removing 2 of your 3K units. They will burn your Nexuses to the ground.
Yeah.
You think that you're going to get any core or draw from that Cathedral? Ain't happening.
That's fair. That's very fair, because definitely if you're fighting, which is why I think so much like Nova is like above Terrasar. But with Terrasar, you have to fight them, and they're burning, and they don't have a lot of straight up removal, right?
Well, the Terrasars will still play Burning Forces.
Yeah, of course, they still play Burning Force, but that's less cards they have to kind of remove it. We have like Andromeda, for example, Nova, and the Star Dragons, what have you. There's like more options to remove things and kind of accelerate the game state. As you said, they do that, so that you don't have to worry about Godspeed if they're dead. I mean, what are you going to do, right? But I have another question now when it comes to yellow. So taking off from, I guess, the level, not level 2, the 2 cost rush, going back to Luster, do you think Luster is lacking or not as, is lower lackluster, funny enough? It's because of the fact that their spells are not potent enough to kind of do things. But I know with some Luster builds, they kind of put other colors in there to kind of compensate for that.
But in order for that to be most effective, they need Archangel out on the field.
Yeah.
So it's not costing you any cores to spend those colors.
I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna have to hit a Yugimoto line on this one. I'm gonna say players have to open their minds and not build a Luster Magic Sling deck, but build a idea. As I said in the last podcast, they have to build an idea. They have to know what they have and what they are limited to, and build an idea around that. For an example, when you look at white, there's a whole bunch of good stuff.
Yeah.
But because there's so much of good stuff in white, you can build an idea.
Yeah.
Like, do I want my opponents to start forcefully swinging with some of their units, and I kind of just counterplay with bouncing skills? You can put Harrier in there, which is Harrier T-Rex, and put a decent amount of burst reaction cards. You can put bounce units in there. You can say, I want to be able to force my opponent to give me resources or force tempo. You can build the Mammoth deck, keep him at level 1, and say, if you want this big ghoul off the board, you kill him, you deal with him. Outside of that, he's a guaranteed 7 DP blocker, or I'm smacking into your life, and you have to figure out how to get him off the board.
Okay.
But when it comes to yellow, they are in that middle area of how much good stuff they have. Like don't get me wrong, everyone has good things, but it's just when it comes to catering toward the Magic Luster, it's not a lot. As white is just a bunch of good stuff, Luster is an actual playstyle, an actual archetype, and there's not enough to cater toward it. So you have to think outside of the box. If I don't have a Luster unit, then what? If I don't have Archangel, then what? Who takes the place, or what takes the place until the pieces come together? Do I play a more defensive style? do I increase the tempo to a certain point that by the time I get my luster combo, I need to one-shot these people, with the loop?
Yeah.
What am I doing with luster if luster is not present? That's my mindset on that.
Okay.
Which is a good point. When you say build an idea, I also think you should build multiple game-winning strategies.
Yeah, okay.
Don't have one particular game-winning strategy like Luster, but also possibly have the two-cost rush as a good strategy.
Right.
Like even in purple deletion, with the core deletion, if you don't have like Curse Dragon to burn the fort along with Baculus, then it's kind of hard to deal with. But say you have Baculus, some Curse units, and you have Smoke Valley on the field. You can drop Baculus, level up your Smoke Valley, and then swing with your Curse units that they can't block because they're all at level 1.
That is a fair point when it comes to, like, I guess we'll touch on deck building on another podcast, ladies and gentlemen. But that is a very good point where an idea is much more focally centered and much more potent much more important to a player when it comes to deck building than just building an archetype. Because again, archetypes are much more predictable, an idea is not. It's much more fluid. So
Yep.
I think
You sometimes want that shock factor.
Yeah, because like Magic the Gathering is a pretty good example of this, where an idea, especially in Commander, they have multiple game-winning strategies versus they don't just build an archetype. But yeah, I think with yellow, I think I'm gonna side with the two-cost rush, not just because of its just aggressive nature, because of just the community we live in the States. They kind of like things fast, quick, and more so easy. If they can do it, they can do it. Is what I will say. If things kind of get handed that way, they can just go in, do what they need to do, and get to the next table. What they need to do. Is what I would say when it comes to yellow luster. Right now, I do agree. There's not a lot of luster to go around to begin with, for one, and two, it takes a little bit more setup. It's a little easier to break down, and with the cards themselves, it looks like there's a bunch of DP minusing really, and DP minus you kind of have to stack on itself. And I think
You also have to worry about luster only takes effect after the end of the battle.
Yeah.
So if you remove that luster unit and you just spend all those cards,
it's not gonna happen.
because you can best believe somebody gonna like one at one point just be like flash, 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 and you got like 5 cards and he blew up your board and you'd be like, all right, now I flash, Dream Bomb, bounce it back to your hand.
Yeah.
Now you can take all those, put them in the drop zone, you can keep that one in your hand.
Yeah. It's bad. But it's such an easy way. It's like a gaping hole in the strategy where it's just like, okay, yeah, I can't flash at this point if I have no blockers.
Yeah.
But like if I can remove it on burst, it's kind of done. So you have to. I mean, granted, these are all things that yellow players should be mindful of. A good yellow player should be. You don't just eat your resources into death.
Yeah.
But it is a pretty blatant hole right there. So the next color I kind of want to review. We're going for the meta. Let's go with white. All right.
Oh, you want to go with white? You don't want to touch on red, huh?
Oh, no, we can save these two for last.
You wanted to focus on the two lower tier decks when it comes, because everyone thinks that red and purple are the highest tier.
I won't say lower tier. I say like at least less expected.
Less expected.
Yeah.
That's a good way to say it.
I say it's less expected. We talked about it on last podcast. I say it's less expected because of how easy it is to play and build the decks. When let's look at the basic way a person goes about day-to-day life and solving problems. Majority of the people will take the easiest path if possible. It's the path of less resistance. When it comes to solving problems, majority of the time the first thing a person will do is look at a manual. When you look at battle spirits, let's look at red. There's already a manual. Those star dragons basically tell you how to build pilot the deck. When you look at curse, the manual is there. Curse is already telling you how to build and pilot the deck. It's giving you all these, the star dragons and the core move. They're already giving you the playstyle of how to play the deck. Now at this point, you put cards in there to basically cater to, your play style. Maybe you like to core removal extremely early. Maybe you like to core removal, late game. Maybe you build up to it. On the Star Dragons, maybe you kind of just want to try to get into Nova extremely as fast as possible. Whatever floats your boat, but it's there. White is just a bunch of good stuff. Like I said earlier, you have to build an idea. And to me, the idea, most decks you can pinpoint a keyword or you can pinpoint a particular card, and then you kind of just flow with it. When it comes to white, I think you have to pick one of the two areas and then build the deck from there. You need to pick one of the boss cards that are in the deck. Preferably anyone that's not the Mammoth. And you're probably thinking, wow, but the Mammoth was in the topic not too long ago. It was. But I believe the Mammoth is like a boss card supporter. It helps if you can splash this thing in any deck. In any white deck. As long as you get that nice 3 to 4 reduction on him, get him out there, put him at level 1. He's a beast regardless of what deck he's in. That's 3 cards you get to pick up, and there's 3 cards you get to grab from the board. He's a monster. He's a monstrosity in himself. But to make a winning image or a path to victory, there needs to be an idea, needs to be a thing. Harrier himself is a very good card. I love Harrier T-Rex. To either force my opponent to swing with a unit they don't want to, trigger off Absolute Ice Shield, trigger off Dream Bomb, that feels great. I force you to play at my tempo. Not only that, on offense, he bounces anything that's not Nova. If you're not Nova or himself, you getting the heck out of there. Yeah. Or, I'm not going to count the counterplay cards that yellow has. But outside of that, you're getting the heck out of there. When you look at the deer, you can play around that. Not play around, but you can build around that. You could put the Metropolis Nexus in there. You could put Bounce Spirits in there to for defense. You can put a decent amount of burst cards within the deck to fend someone off. But you don't have to worry about it being archetype,
Centered.
Exactly. Yeah. Odin, not even Machine Beast, will go perfect inside that deer's deck. Odin's a busted little card. Busted.
I think you don't need, when it comes to what you don't need archetypes.
You don't need archetypes.
A lot of it is not locked in.
The same thing with purple. You don't need archetype for purple. Pretty much yellow is pretty much the main archetype when it comes to and it's not even really an archetype. Yeah, it's just it's 2 costs with Fable Beasts.
But it's just when people come to deck building, they have to find something they're used to when it comes to building.
That's why I think Star Dragon's a good example, because they have so many cards that say Star Dragon on it. For example, one of the most key cards in Star Dragon is Big Bang Energy. It only applies to Star Dragons, but it makes the cost of each one equivalent to your life. So you can just literally start eating cards out of your hand onto the board,
Unfortunately, people can still make mistakes. I've seen somebody have Big Bang Energy with 2 cores on there and then proceed to play Big Bang Energy and then try to play a Rain Needle. And I'm like, okay, pay 1 core for it.
Yeah, because it costs 2. That doesn't make any sense. So you have to make sure that you mix every last Star Dragon. But you see what I'm talking about, cater towards every Star Dragon. There's the manual's there, you just see anything with Star Dragon is text, and that's what you eat into the deck.
Right.
Versus white, where it's okay, this says white cards. This one just says rested white cards.
Yeah.
All right, that's what we're gonna do.
Now, I think the most important thing I want to say to all the white players when it comes to going to Vegas, if you're building your deck and you're practicing, the night before or the morning of, you're trying to decide what you need to do and you got a little time. Don't play for that late game. I know that sounds weird because white is defensive and it has all these nice defensive cards, but you cannot play for the late game right now. Not in set 1. Everyone has access to the 1 card that you have access to, and it came in your color. Absolute Ice Shield. All it takes is for you to put purple down to 2, the absolute ice shield, and they're removing everything that you have. All it takes is for you to put somebody down to 2 in a Nova deck, and they're removing everything that you have. We do have protection, but we can't protect ourselves from everything. And the one thing is that I was telling Tom is, even if they allow side decks, that first game you play is very vital. If you build your white deck to counter red, and you end up against purple, if you lose that first game, that second game that you play, you're going to put cards from your side deck into your main deck to counter purple. But guess what that purple player also has access to? Their side deck. So now they can put cards in there to counter you. And at that point, now your counter versus their counter, it cancels out.
Yep.
You have to build a solid idea and a solid game plan and a solid victory. With that being said, now at that point, your side deck becomes more impactful. Because now your first game is not hinged on me building a deck to counterplay a certain color. It's now based on an idea for victory. And my side deck is going to be that equipment to help me get past certain obstacles that I couldn't get past on the first game.
Mm-hmm.
Don't build for that late game, because right now there's too many colors that has access. Everyone will always have access to absolute ice shield. So let me stop saying that. Everyone will not. The two most popular decks will end up thriving when you think you're going to kill them in the late game. The longer the game gets versus red at this current state, Nova, they will decimate that whiteboard. It will get obliterated. If you be aggressive with them early game with cards like Odin, Harrier, Mammoth, if you can get it out, hopefully, whatever, for people who likes it, dual gun, you put more pressure on the Nova player to get that skill out of the way sooner. Does he have Nova? He probably does. You going to use it now? You don't have enough cores to put out a big board, so you either put out the Nova or you die. You kind of force the tempo.
Mm-hmm. It's more of, does he have Big Bang? Especially if you're rushing early. Does he have Big Bang? Does he have Seaworm? Does he have Nova?
Right.
Yes.
That's a three-piece combo. You need to have immediately early.
And if they don't, you force a 2-piece combo. Yeah. You want to keep yourself alive? Go Sigworm, go Nova.
Yeah.
And that's still, if they have even just one Nexus on the field, that's a 5 cost, and then a 7
exactly.
and then a 6 cost.
Exactly. So white has defensive capabilities, but it doesn't mean you have to play defensively the entire time. It just means that we have very good retaliations and very good protections versus certain matchups. That's really all it really means. We still can fight just like everyone else. You can attack with a 1 cost, I can attack with a 1 cost. You can attack with a 2 cost, I can. We're still playing Battle Spirits. We still got to chop those 5 lives off and put our opponents in a death-defying situation sooner than later, because if not, we're going to lose. Mm-hmm. We can't keep creatures out there that long. We may have armor, but it's only armors to selected units. And if we end up having a different matchup, that armor means nothing. Go Odin or go home.
That's a good saying. Because Odin's definitely your key spirit, man. It's like you're definitely someone you're rooting for. But I really appreciated the passionate breakdown on White from Mustang himself. Because holy cow, he just gave you a whole lesson. Take it home, guys. So,
I can go longer.
We're gonna take on the whole podcast. Okay, so I guess at this point, so any questions about that though when it comes to White? Because I definitely have a very passionate response, and definitely said don't go for the late game, and maybe even try a more aggressive strategy, because despite White's defensive nature.
Use Regain. Please use Regain, guys.
Regain's a really good card.
Suppression.
Suppression and Regain.
Suppression.
Those are really good. And they're even splashable.
White has some of the best magic.
Yes. Like really good. Like Regain, you could use that in red. Like imagine using Regain on Nova. Like there goes one half. It's like Michael Jackson. We went to that concert. One half turns away, faints. The other half turns out, faints, and got the
Yeah, well,
reward.
most people when they see like Nova, they'll just immediately ice shield. If anyone's scooped, they'll ice shield.
I actually definitely for sure. Like yeah, because if you have to, because it's like because you're gonna lose so much, you might as well save your life, right? For
Because
that.
normally they'll
got
blow up
so
like
much.
they'll blow up like two of your cards,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh, by the way, this guy's got confront, and he's going to kill your standing unit unless you block for that.
Yeah.
So now you're gonna be like, all right, well, flip ice shield. I'm not gonna and just
Put it all back.
Now, so far we got good representation from the Esper tournament with purple, red.
Yep.
Do we still think?
Yellow
Do we
was in the
still-
tops as well.
Well,
Yeah.
The only one that hasn't technically went undefeated in the Esper tournament is white.
Yeah.
but do we still think Nova is going to hold his own out there in
Well,
Vegas?
hold on. I wanted to ask that question. Where do you think White's gonna place in like maybe top 5? Like, do you think
top 5?
I would say maybe top 4, top 5.
For white,
Right.
I think
Do you think he'll make it?
I'm going to say. I'm gonna say no,
Okay.
and I love white,
Okay.
but I'm gonna say no,
Okay.
and it's only for the reasons I said earlier. Unless an amazing, I'm gonna sound like a freaking Gundam moment, but unless there's an amazing pilot who can build that mech, no, it's
I think there might be
It's
one
just no.
white deck in top 16.
I think top 16 that it'll squeeze in there. Top 32, I'm feeling confident for about good 2, 3,
Yeah.
4 maybe. I'll pray for 4,
I'll pray for 4.
but when it comes to 8, I don't think so. And if for the grace of the core, Wyatt pops up in there,
Yeah.
it's because of the reasons I said before. Very good pilot,
Yeah.
and he built that deck with the most freest mind ever. And that's the thing about Battle Spirits is that we're not like other TCGs where you're hard restricted to a certain archetype
Yeah.
or colors, or like I think it was like Vanguard where you had to stay in your certain clan, and Digimon it was
Color restricted.
color restricted somewhat. It was difficult.
Yeah.
Battle Spirits has always been about freedom
Yeah.
as much as you possibly can, and I believe it's going to be a huge shock factor even for me if a white person makes a top 8. Wow, that sounded weird.
A white dang.
Okay, white player.
Player.
I mean, god dang it. Yeah, you
If
know
someone
what,
using a
you
white
know
deck,
what I mean.
if someone using a white deck enters a top 8, we'll take it. All right, cool. You know something though? I'm gonna look at dual gun builds now and call them the Gundam build. Because I'm just gonna coin that now. Dual gun, call them the Gundam build.
Red is obviously going to be showing up, but
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a difficulty.
Okay.
When it comes to Nova, he is an X-Rare and he's a Saga Rare. We're already assuming
good point.
that the Saga Rare is like 1 per case. We're assuming that it's going to be 1 per case.
Yeah.
Which means when you buy your boxes, you're more than likely only pulling X-Rares.
Wow. Yes.
That's what I was about to say. That's why I asked
You might
that
only, depending on how many
Yeah.
boxes you bought, you might only get like 2 to 3,
Yeah.
Yep.
which changes up your deck build if you only have 2. So a lot of people me especially, ain't trading their Novas until day 2.
Yeah.
You know why? Because you ain't getting my Novas, because I'm not dealing with Novas.
And you know what that's going to end up creating? Either chaos or creativity. Either the morning of, or the night before, or it can be at this very moment while we're recording this podcast in this week. People are going to realize what he just said. 2 things are going to happen within this week for creators.
Yeah.
Pterosaur is going to end up being the thing,
Mm-hmm.
or a Nova variant, a Sigworm variant without Nova is going to be created.
I think that's pretty good because we didn't even factor in necessarily people are not having these cards prior. I completely forgot about that. Like you have to get it the day of.
And you also have to include ice shields because
because
the X-Rares
this
and
is
alternate
gonna be
rares
beautiful,
replace
ladies
the
and
rares.
gentlemen.
Yep.
Like, it's gonna force it.
The X-rares and alternate rares replace the rares in your packs.
Yeah.
Which means you might not even get a. So somebody said that you get basically one ice shield per like 1.5 boxes, possibly.
Wow.
I'm not sure if that's going to end up being true or not, but if that's the case, that means that if you bought 6 boxes like I did,
Yeah.
I might only get 3 ice shields.
Love that. So on that note, as a red player, this is very exciting for me.
This is good.
That's very exciting because Nova. Look, I come from the previous iteration of Battle Spirits. All right, red. One of the go-tos, one of the most potent things is just to attack and just say yeet that guy. There's not even yeet, just kill him. You know, I don't got confront. Screw that. I'm just want to kill that guy.
Swing kill.
Swing kill. Like why go through the step of having to compare BP with you unless there's additional benefit to me when I can just literally look at that guy and just send him to your graveyard. Like why do that? So this is very good because like that's based on what I've been seeing in tournaments. That same place I was kind of resurfing again because it's just convenient. It's easy. So but there's a lot of builds in red that people just don't realize. There's a confront build where you have Sigworm. There's the Pterosaur build. There's the Awakening build with Ares. There is a lot of variants going on. Like you have Thundering Peaks. You can use a confront build, kind of yeet this guy this way, then yeet him to something else again. That not only happens in Pterosaur, but it can happen in Sigworm. It can happen, and Sigworm also gives every Awakening confront. So you can literally confront an entire board. It's a pretty fun build, but is it potent? Not necessarily, because of the fact there's so much more potent builds. Why can I do that and build towards that when I can literally just jump a bind like Jurassic World on you? Why can I do that when I can literally just yeet your board with 1 Giga Dragon?
Yeah.
You know,
So
why do that?
this right
Pterosaurs will actually be probably the easiest
To build. Yeah.
And I
That's
think this
the
right
point.
here is very important. Like if everyone is still hanging on through this podcast, this part right here is very important, especially if you're a red player.
Yes.
You're going to be going out there with the correction. Let me go back. This part is extremely important if you are a red Nova player.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to go out there is with all the confidence in the world, like you're going to get the Novas, but you end up not getting the Novas because of the information that that just came about.
Yeah.
And then you now on the fly you have to build something else. Something else that you probably didn't test, something else you're probably not knowledgeable of, and you're already just accustomed and been play testing Nova the past week or two, so on and so forth. Now you got to go out there and try to build something on the fly.
This brings a whole new light to the Vegas event because for a lot of card games that come out straight from the jump, when that first tournament kind of sets a precedent on what people are going to play. Because things are going to be much more rare to kind of get, it forces players to build a different deck and maybe gives a more of a valid argument as to why you should play said deck. Because here goes the first real event, and let's say someone's now like, okay, no one's really playing the Awakening builds in the Discord tournaments, but maybe now at this tournament, if the Awakening build tops, someone's like, oh man, at the first cash prize tournament sponsored by Bandai, it topped. Maybe I should consider playing the Ares build and just kind of yeet my opponent with a bunch of attacks, or even play hopscotch with my cards. You know, this might be more of a valid argument compared to like, okay, now everyone got their Novas. Nova's best build. Nova is red. Like, you know, I'm not trying to make a cult here, but like I'm kind of good with the Nova right now. I'm, want to see a little diversity in red because let's go down the list. Pterosaur. All right, we kind of just make things cheap, kind of go wide, and then either confront you twice with the Rex, and kind of just say, hey, Thundering Peaks, let's do it again, and get rid of the 2 biggest guys on your boards, and then give my entire board +6. All right. So at this point, what are you going to really combat? You got to ice wall this board, or basically everything's going to have confronts because the threshold of BP is so high that if you block, you lose a unit, and if you don't block, you only have 5 life. You're dead. And one thing Pterosaur is really good, again, is just being cheap. They can yeet cards really fast onto the board. And then we have Star Dragons, which Star Dragons have quite a few builds compared to their counterparts of Pterosaur. They have a rogue build where it's like, I forgot his name. It's like his Photon Dragon. If it has a soul core in it, it has an additional symbol. But people have used that build with like Star Altar, kind of a rogue build, and even what was it, Reenergize, right?
Yeah, I think it's Reenergize.
Yeah, where it kind of bursts your opponent down because you only have 5 life. This guy has 2 symbols. Attack 2 to 3 times, you're dead.
Actually, that card is the one thing that can get rid of deal with Ice Shield. If your opponent's at 2 life and you play the Nebula Dragon, the one that gets 2 symbols,
There's Nebula Dragon never kicked it.
if you swing and they're at 2 life and they take it, it's a continuous hit.
Yes.
So you can't even activate the Ice Shield until both lives are gone.
Nope. It's in itself is an okay build because the guy doesn't have a lot of BP, which is what makes him fair. So if you give him an additional BP with things like Charge Draw, it makes it much more potent. Right, so you go with Confronts first, you go with Nebula, and you kind of end game. So your threshold really is 2 life instead of 1, which makes it very potent. So literally at 3 life, you're in a danger zone. If you see Nebula, you gotta get rid of it. It's also a nice build in red. And then you have the Ares build, what I think is a very fun build, where you're playing hopscotch and you're making everyone so strong. And when he attacks, if he successfully lives, the entire board restands again. Not just that build, then you have the Sigworm build, not with Nova, where everything with Awakening now has confronts, so you can clear board and once again play hopscotch to clear out your opponent's board. There's so many builds in red that are just fun and I think decently viable, but it's kind of being overshadowed by Nova because you have this guy that's 12,000 BP that can literally yeet an entire board.
Unfortunately, with people playing Nova, like you need the Soul Core on that card as well too. And if people Nova, it's a dead card basically.
Yeah, you can't go both.
It's a blank freaking
card.
Star Dragon at that point.
Because like literally at that point you just but Nova in itself though just eradicating a board, and then let's say for example you have something like Star Alter. I mean people don't play it, but let's say you do. You know he blocks this Nova. Well,
people could simply like say they bought like 2 boxes because you got to assume that everyone is not rich.
Yeah.
I don't have enough money to buy 8 boxes. I bought 2 starter decks and 6 boxes. That is still was a lot of money for me. It was like $800.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people won't have that type of money, especially when you have to pay for the trip, the hotel, and all the stuff when it comes to going down to Vegas.
I never thought poverty would make me so excited. Because now people gotta build different decks.
Because I made this joke way back when we first heard about like you had to pay for the product. And I made a joke like I could just go with 2 demo decks and go in and see how funny this would be.
Like, oh man, the minimalist. The minimalist. That's basically what it is. That's basically what it is. Like, imagine coming, I'm mashing dad. I only need Sigma.
But apparently if you just buy a ticket entry, they give you a free trial deck.
Word?
Yeah, okay, I saw it in small print after I already got my.
At least they're doing that much, you know.
So
just enjoy that.
Best case scenario, you bring the demo decks, you buy 1 Sigworm trial deck, and you'll be all right a little bit. You might be able to buy like some of the little pieces.
Yeah, I mean I don't know 1,000 places. I don't know 1,000 players. If you place maybe like what 200-300, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
You probably can get some burning forces off of people.
Yeah.
The Andromedas are in the trial deck, so you're already solid there.
That's another one. Andromeda, and if you can make a whole confront build in red, because Andromeda is a very potent card that's literally 10,000 BP. You can still use Thundering Peaks. Like,
yeah, but you have to have it at the level 3. It only gets the confront at level 3.
True, but there's a combo in red where you can use what was his name? Not Andromedas. You use Andromedas. It counts as 2 symbols. You know, if you went second and the second turn of you going second in the game, you can drop that and just kind of you build something up and kind of level it up part way. You can get to level 3. I think the third, maybe that's to be the 6th turn in the game, and just go town from that point. Then you get Thundering Peaks. So it's not like it'll take you too far, but there's just all these builds.
Yeah. Obviously, there are going to be a couple of road decks out.
Yeah, and I'm hoping I see something that's going to convince a lot of these raid players like, yo, I know Nova is carrying us, but it doesn't have to be us.
I honestly hope a bunch of rogue decks show up.
Yeah,
because it's so more entertaining than just seeing Nova, Core Depletion, Maduke, Luster, 2 cost drop, white mech type builds.
Yeah, it's oh man, I think it bothers me, and it's funny because you only named 1 red build in the small list, and that kills me.
I'm sorry, Pterosaur.
But Pterosaur, like in the corner, just hiding, like
Nova's just like the end all be all red.
See,
so
yeah.
And I like Pterosaur. It's so much crazier.
It's like, hey, I just dropped this for 2 cores, and now your board is looking scary as heck. But I can go all day. But I think red will do decently still because it just seems like a kind of a fan favorite. Red,
Especially with the demo decks,
demo's
it's
coming out.
going to be
kind of shoved in your face.
it's the easiest color to play with.
Yeah, so I definitely do still expect to see like top 8. I still expect to see it, and people can buy their way into it. It's like not everyone's rich, but the people that do are rich, they're gonna play the easiest thing, kind of yeet them to the top 8.
Yeah.
So I still expect to see it at top, but I'm just so concerned that all I'm gonna see is Nova. And coming from a fan base such as Yu-Gi-Oh and Cardfight Vanguard, where people kind of follow what they see, I don't want to see that here. So but I think it's big enough on red. Let's go to purple. Purple King, what you got to say?
I love purple. With Duke, it'll make like probably top 32, 128, but it's only gonna be like 1, maybe 2 to Madukes.
Okay.
The other deck is just gonna end up being the core depletion type deck.
Okay.
It's just powerful because the 2-piece combo, once you're at 14 cores, your 2-piece combo is always active.
Yeah.
Once you're at 14 cores, it's just like, boop,
that's
boop,
a very nice
boop,
tip you just gave to our audience to be mindful of that the amount of cores that a purple player has, if they're using core depletion, count them.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if it's 14, you're kind of might have to be wary.
Mind you, 14 is if you literally have an empty board.
Okay. Wow.
But even with like 1 Nexus on the field, it drops significantly.
Yeah.
Because it turns into a 5 for Baculus, and then only another 6 for Curse Dragon. So that's 11. And you can take, so it's a total of 12 because you have the core on Baculus, but you can move that core onto there.
Yeah.
So with just 1 Nexus, you can do the skill at 12.
Yeah. So basically for every symbol you have on your board, it goes down by 2.
Yes.
Yep, and that's very potent. So you have to be mindful of that. Like, because purple is definitely a popular color, guys. So these are some pretty nice tips as well that you might be able to see from a purple player.
Yep.
So, but why do you think Maduk is going to be seeing far less than core depletion? Is core depletion just easier to play with, or is it more Maduk is just much harder to pilot?
Okay. So when it comes to Maduk, it's one of its weaknesses is core depletion. You remove all the cores off of Duke, you can't really choose Blood Curse.
That's pretty funny. All right.
Other ways of people getting around Maduk are they just use low costing cards. So when Maduk wants to die, you're just refusing it by hitting them with the low cost cards.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty fair.
Yeah. And I think someone I heard on a YouTube video, can't remember who it was. I'm not sure if it was Eggman or Espera, but they basically said the same stuff you would do for Curse, cost-wise, you do the exact same with the core removal deck, cost-wise.
Okay.
And if you put them on a table versus everyone else, the core removal just does the better removal and still being aggressive. Like, you're attacking, removing cores.
Okay.
Creature's gone. Versus Curse, I'm attacking, and the only way for you to be gone is for you to block me.
Yeah.
And at that point, there's a conscious decision if you want to get rid of it or not.
Yeah.
But with core removal, you don't got a decision.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Right.
It's just going to happen because at the end of the day, you need units on your board to do this. It's called Battle Spirits. You need spirits.
If you want to give everybody else all your curse units Blood Curse, you have to have Maduk with 6 cores. Since you had to have played Maduk and then get 6 cores on it, and then you still have to have other curse units with multiple cores on them for them to be active. Yeah. It's very difficult to do, at least at this current point in time.
Yeah.
Especially since we don't have summoning sickness.
Yep. Everything can attack you. Yeah. Everything's accelerated. So you don't have to, there's not a lot of setup time. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Which is probably why core depletion is so potent, because of the fact that you all not only get rid of their resources, you still have the option to attack. There's not like a pause in between these attacks. You're going to get messed up, So
especially since I have a few cards that have on attack
removed
your core.
Yep.
Which means even if you have a blocker with 1 core on it, it's dying before even the flash step happens.
Yep.
See the one thing that I like is on top was off topic. Just tap it. We run a little out of time. But the one thing for the main popular decks is, I'm gonna have to steal this from Blue Lock. It's the ability to reproduce wins.
Mm.
And in Blue Lock, he breaks it down that reproducing wins is not by chance, it's not by luck. It's you already know and can analyze the position or the time of when you know you can win and how you can win.
Mm.
And it happens constantly. Every time you can see the results. You know, what am I fighting against? What my deck can do. In Blue Lock, it's how many golders there are, how many defenders there are. Basically, and to sum it up, you know the matchups and you know what you can do to reproduce your winning image.
Okay.
Whether it's I need the board size to be this low. As he said earlier, just for the bare minimum, if he needs to take control of the game and win
Yeah.
via tempo or whatever, he knows the bare minimum cores that he needs. He already knows how to reproduce his winning image in multiple different ways.
Mm.
And he knows how to set up his winning image.
Mm.
And that's what I think that these top two colors and archetypes within these colors do very, very well.
Mm.
They can just keep reproducing their, their results, their wins, their winning image. And most of these other decks cannot. There's especially if the players already have to try to create an image on how to build the deck to begin with.
Mm.
So it's going to be a shock factor going out there, and there's not a lot of Novas.
So, do you think, because Nova's kind of was keeping, I guess, purple in check? I mean, I guess based on tournament results, do you think with the lack of Novas, of course, it's hard to say. To me, at least, Nova's what's keeping red on life support with this tournament checks. Do you think with the lack of Novas, do you think purple's going to take it all?
Possible. Still the same problem with Curse Dragon. Curse Dragon's the X rare in there,
Mm-hmm.
but Baculus is also a rare, which means you might not pull 4 Baculuses out of 6 boxes.
Mm.
So
The more we talk about this event, the more I like this event.
I've already come up with a few strategies of what happens if I don't get all the cards I need.
As you should.
I have
As you should.
I have backup strategies.
Yep.
I think this tournament it is
One is begging someone so I can get all my Baculuses.
like it is a real tournament that Bandai is hosting, but I will have to deem this as a phantom tournament or like a phantom result type deal because of the conditions that the tournament has set forth. When you typically go to regionals, nationals, or any type of tournament, players are already prepared.
Mm.
They already got their boxes, their trial decks, their sets, you name it.
Mm.
This is not the case. These players are going out to a different, I'm gonna call it a different style of tournament where you have to go out there and construct your deck, your build the day of. Like you have an idea, a general idea of how your deck's going to be built. Like you have a picture on your phone, you already memorized it, you have the list written down. But if 15-20% of that deck is not put together or your X rares are not there, now the game has shifted.
Mm.
Even your rares. There's
Yeah.
a possibility you might not get all your rares.
So this tournament is, even though we can see, if Nova does win, we can say, oh man, Nova won, or Core Removal did win. Well, we all have to keep this in mind, the conditions the tournament set forth. There weren't a lot of X decks to keep other decks in check because the lack thereof.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this tournament is going to be the players who are prepared based on information, knowledge, resources, and I'm not sure if I said it before, preparation, are going to be the ones that win or do very well in the tournament.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to take it, like, before we set off into the sunset, guys. I want to kind of go around the room. Who do you think will take top? So with you, Tom.
Well, since I'm playing, I think I'm going to take top.
Word! I love this energy. I love it.
Battlecore corner nights all day, baby.
Let's go. All right, purple. I mean, now I can fuck with it. We just gotta keep supporting this guy. I mean, Tom's all day. I'm conflicted. I was like, I want to say red, but my boy Tom gotta take the top. You feel me? Oh man! All right, I'm going purple. I'm going Tom. Purple King. Going all day, every day, baby. Let's go, Curse Dragon. Up in it. Let's go.
One time for the one time.
One time for the one time. Corey, same page? He's on the train. He's on the train.
Okay. Serious note. Tom will take this move. Okay, no, but seriously, I'm gonna throw a dice in the wind. I'm gonna have to say pterosaurs.
Pterosaurs?
I'm gonna have to say pterosaurs. It's probably out of all the colors.
It's a pretty good bet.
Out of all the colors and accessibility to build, is probably the easiest to get their hands on and probably the most aggressive to pilot.
Yeah.
When you look at Novas and even Curse itself, fully built without any hassle, Pterosaurs is probably going to be a lot easier to get their hands on.
What is Godspeed an X-ray? Is Godspeed an X-ray?
I believe so, yeah.
Godspeed's an X-ray.
Okay. Man,
Each color has 3 X-rays.
Okay. In that case, yeah, I kind of agree. In terms of like the best, possibly the best, based on all the conditions this tournament has, based on that, on a very serious note, I have to agree with Pterosaurs as well because it's such a simple thing to do. You get the Giga, you put them out, and you just go wide.
Yeah, and you may not even need.
Yeah, and then Curse Dragon.
You may not even need a full play set of Gigarexes. Even if you want to get your hands on 2, the one thing about fucking Pterosaurs is some of these things are cheap.
Yeah.
Like you could just rush down your opponent. And the Pterosaurs, I'm gonna put Pterosaurs and Emperor Beast together in the same day. These things low end got confront.
Yeah.
So setting up with small creatures for reduction, they gon' eat that thing alive.
And Red has ways of adding cards from the discard pile back to your hand. From the grave back to your hand. You can
so
trash.
Their early game, if even if someone just goes like, well, Red has a really good early game, and their mind just shatters and goes like, Red has an early game. They probably gonna be like, honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if someone puts 1 or 2 Gigarexes, and then the rest of them are just what's his name, the Nova Dragon counterpart, Sigworm.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't put it past someone.
So basically, you might take a confront deck might be what's
basically
a confront.
I would even go with that too. It's just when I look at players obtaining the cards they need, most famous decks, the Curse, Nova, I don't think it's going to be a lot of representatives. And even if they have a couple, they have to play flawless in order to make it through that entire day to get to that top spot.
I can see your point. You made a pretty bad opinion.
It's going to be fun when I keep sending you guys messages. Round 1, red. Round 2, purple. Round 1, red. Just next round after the other, just purple and red.
That's going to be true. I'm going to put my bet on purple just because of the fact that while these are the best conditions, I think that because it's hard to say, it's hard to explain what I'm thinking. I think it's because if a card's so potent that it makes that difference in your deck and someone gets their hand on it, that might make or break a match. Like if someone has absolute ice shield versus someone who doesn't, that might make or break a match. Yeah. Because that's the thing. So that's why I think I ain't gonna lie to you, I think money might win the day. That's what I think it's gonna take top. Money's maybe.
Well. This tournament is definitely a pay to win.
So correction then, if we're talking about the access to like cards like Absolute Ice Shield and some of the key boss creatures up at the top, then crazy enough, I'm gonna have to go back. I'll go back and say white.
White. Okay.
If the access to Absolute Ice Shield goes to an all-time low, what other defensive capabilities do you guys have to keep white from off your buttholes? We have defensive. we have defensive capabilities in general.
Yeah, that is true, and they can prolong the game state.
If someone just don't do this, just an armor deck, no one's touching them. They can just sling this thing out.
Yeah. Because
if they just go Mammoth, which is not an X rare, but that card is extremely potent. It's on everyone's booty holes.
It's not an X rare. All right.
And it's not an X rare.
That's a good point because of the fact that we have to consider while cards may not be as accessible, people who are I guess really prepared to not really work too hard, but most will pay their way out of here.
Yeah. Think about it. Even if you only get your hands on 1 or 2 Absolute Ice Shields, your chances of getting it in a match drops. We have Dream Bomb.
Yeah. So it's
And-
not. It's kind of similar, like in Vanguard, back when, like, if you didn't have 4 perfect guards, you were probably
Yeah,
right. Like
I remember that.
Like even if
Yeah.
you got your boss creature, we have Dreamboat. We have Mammoth. We only need one Harrier. You can give us one Harrier, one dual gun, and one deer. Actually, we have the deer.
Because of trial deck.
Yeah,
Because of the trial
the
deck.
trial deck is easily accessible and it burns. I'm glad I brought that point up because then now they helped us kind of rediscover this because there's people that can either pay their way in or they have to find what's most easily accessible. We only saw it from really one point of view. Then you have someone that can say, I can pay my way to get in here in terms of potency. So now if someone, he brought up a good point. White, everyone uses white in some way or form. Absolute Ice Shield, everyone does it. So now if you can't have that in your deck and this guy does and he can literally burn you to death, what are you going to do?
Because
Right.
the only thing keeping
And if you can't
everyone
come
away
back, it's
from
your choice.
death
Yeah.
is absolute Ice Shield.
Yeah.
You guys don't have anything that decent to just say stop.
Stop.
We do. The entire color is basically can tell you to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
So if we're talking about conditions based on the tournament, like accessibility and whatnot,
Yeah.
white, I feel like white's going to take it. And the trial, if we got to look back, trial deck fights, white was strong as fuck. Now imagine condition set. The trial deck is still decent compared to the
And
others,
they're inexpensive as well.
and inexpensive. And like I said,
Yeah.
we got the fuck. I'm repeating it. We got Dream Bomb.
He has a pretty good point. He has a pretty good point, ladies and gentlemen. All right. On that note, I'm rooting for my boy Tom. But I ain't gonna lie to you, Tom. I'm kind of hoping Red takes it. I'm hoping Red, and I think it might be Pterosaur, just on that same note of inexpensiveness. So I think either purple or red. So white, he made a pretty good argument for white. So this is going to be a very interesting outlook when it comes to Vegas. But hey, guys, thank you for tuning into the podcast. Thanks for coming by. This is Isaac, lead on the production and creative team.
I am Mustang Berserker, tournament organizer.
And I'm Detective. Apparently going to lose to Red.
No, take it, Tom.
Well,
No, I'm going to destroy Red.
well,
I've been practicing for like a week fighting and see where.
well, we gonna give him our blessings.
Yeah.
Anyway, everyone, as Battle Spirits likes to say, let the course decide your fate, and we like to say, let the battles decide your champion. We will see you guys
Tomorrow, or next day, or next week. See you later.
Peace out, everybody, and have a good one. And good luck